Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to episode 154 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Dariush Soudi. What a great conversation. So many layers, incredible entrepreneur, incredible stories. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited. Tons of layers here. Dariush Soudi. What is up, brother?
Amazing, Jeff, and thank you for the invite. I've been looking forward all week to this. So
this is going to be fun today.
Last hour of the last day of the week in Dubai, and I'm going to finish on a high. Look forward to it.
Let's talk about that. For people from North America, you just told me something I had no clue about. In Dubai, your work days are Sunday to Thursday. Let's talk about that quickly. Let everybody know about that.
Weekends here, because Saturdays and Sundays is based on the Christianity. So you go to church on a Sunday. Here is Islamic world. So it's a Thursday and a Friday. So people go to the mosque on a Friday. Yeah. So our weeks here end on a Thursday, and we have Fridays and Saturdays off. We're back at work on a Sunday morning.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
today being Thursday, it's our last day of the week.
There's so many layers of you, and I just want to start off by just where were you born? How was your childhood growing up? I know you lost your dad at a very young age, and so I picked a couple little things I've learned about you. I'm going to throw in there, but let's start off with where you're born and give me your journey as a child, and let's start that process.
Thank you. Born in 1966, makes me 55. Born on 18th of April, which is the day you and your son ran a marathon. So,
and my son's birthday is the 19th.
Amazing. Is he in Aries? Is he still in Aries? Because I'm on the crust of being in Aries. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love to know more about him as well. So, born in Iran, medium class family, nothing spectacular. My father was an entrepreneur. He goes on a trip. I'm age 3.5. He has a major heart attack, age 29. On this trip, never comes back. For about a year, my family didn't tell me that he died. So I would go outside the house every day waiting for my dad to come home. And, one thing I say, always tell your kids everything. Okay? Because when I found out a year later, I was just so disappointed in my family and adults that they can lie to you for so long. Yeah. And they felt I didn't have the capacity as a child to handle the news. So they just hid it from me and lied to me for a year. And I think that even today has tainted me, and you think, even your family can lie to you. They can hide things to you. And it's a painful process. But then my grandfather fought for our custody with my mum because my mum was only 23. She was a widow at 23. And she fought hard. I was a witness of that battle. He won because in those days in the Islamic world, the father gets the kids. And took 3 of us, myself, my sister, and mine, under his wing. And then 2.5 years later, he's with us, and he has some cough, goes to have a shower, comes back and dies in front of us of a heart attack. So by the age of 7, I saw 2 male prominent figures in my life die. And it made me realize how short life is, because they're both young. My granddad was only like 55 or something, my age. And he was a mayor of a city, very successful guy, prominent figure. And he just died. So my mom's life was turned on its head in Iran. And in 1979, we came to the UK. We just came to learn to speak English, and then the revolution started. And because we were pro-regime and not the new guys, we just decided to stay. So it became the longest holiday of our lives.
I want to dive into 2 things you said there.
Sure.
And it's something I heard you say in the past too, is living with no regrets. And this is something I teach people on a regular basis, living no regrets. I just recently, in a week, it's going to be 6 months, I lost my father. He was 76, so he did live a good life, but it was the same thing.
Even 67's young. Even 67's young.
100%. And he was, I'm the 40-year-old that would talk to my dad 3 times a day. We would call on the way to work. I would call him before I went to bed every night. I had an incredible relationship with him. He was my best friend and never smoked, never drank, power walked every day. I talked to him on I talked to him on May 6th and 10:30 at night, said goodnight. I got a call May 7th, 6 a.m. He dropped in front of my mom's arms and died in front of her. And my life just turned upside down. And I was able to spend all these years with my dad. I did a lot with my dad. I was always with him. We talked every day. So I have these incredible memories. So listening to you not being able to have those, it's just so touching, and it's so close to home. And man, it's I just want to say that, I mean, living with no regrets is so important for people to understand, because it's, man, that's the one thing we could control when we're still here. Live in the present, do what you can every single day. So I love that. So from the UK, let's start your journey. Continue there from the UK. So how long did you live in the UK for?
If I may go back a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you wonder if you're cursed or you're blessed, because we all lose our parents sometimes. Yeah. Because I'm so positive with everything, I realized what's the blessing out of this. And the blessing is that I treat every day. I started counting. Age of 7, I was like, okay, would I live by the age of 30? Would I live by the age of 40? So I started counting days. I was aware there was like 50,000 days to the day I die. And then I made sure that every day was precious, because I think most people live life like they're going to live forever. And they're going to have regrets when the time comes, looking back at their lives. And so in a way, I try to turn the positive into it. And I thought, you know what, at least I'm blessed to appreciate every day as it comes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great lesson there. So let's talk about you in the UK. Yeah. How long did you live in the UK for?
3 very long and miserable years.
Why would you say that?
Because we lived in London for about 6 months, and London is very cosmopolitan. Yeah. And it was 1978, 79. We moved to Manchester. My uncle was I'm sure you've heard of AstraZeneca. Oh, my uncle was the CEO of AstraZeneca for the Middle East. And their head office was in Manchester. So we moved there. And I remember landing, and it was raining. And I was like, oh my God, look at this beautiful tiny raindrops. Man, it rained for 35 years. Jeff, it didn't stop raining, right? And then I was just miserable. I went to school. I was the only foreign kid. I didn't speak English. I got kicked out of me. I didn't quit. I didn't want to tell my mom, because I felt she was miserable enough and she had a tough life. So I just took a beating. I thought, you know what? I learned martial arts. I became a prefect, a head boy. I still had my ass kicked. I tried to learn to speak English without an accent, because even now I meet people who are from my country and they have a strong accent, and I made sure I didn't have an accent so I could fit in the society. It made no difference, because I realized prejudice is prejudice. You can't change that, but the only way you can do it is by educating others, right? Yeah. So it was a tough childhood. My mom was very negative because she had a tough life. Everything pessimist, everything's going to turn out for the worst. Be careful, don't do this, don't do that, it's dangerous. She didn't want to lose me. Yeah. But all along, I had this desire to be positive, this desire I realized even then that I'm dyslexic, that education wasn't for me. Yeah. You know, I couldn't sit still and listen to somebody that I didn't respect and stand in line and speak when you're spoken to and agree with things that you don't agree with. Yeah, I just wanted to get to become 18 and leave, you know. And then I realized only about 4 or 5 years ago that I always thought maybe my dad's DNA was positive, maybe because he was an entrepreneur, maybe no matter how much negativity and shit I faced in my life, I had this desire to be an optimist, a positive, and everything was rosy despite everything was falling apart. Then I actually realized I was on a Tony Robbins seminar in Tenerife, and I was listening to him talking. I thought, oh my God, my mom has been my inspiration, because I never wanted to be like her. Because I didn't want to have a miserable life. I didn't want to be a pessimist. I didn't want to, because I couldn't bear being with her because she just triggered everything that I hated about being miserable, and I just want to be a positive guy and happy. Then I realized that she was my inspiration. So while I was in Tenerife, I picked the phone up and said, Mom, what are you doing at Christmas? And she lives in the UK.
Yeah.
It was nothing. I said, right, the ticket's on its way. You're flying over. And for the last so many years, we've been inseparable.
I love it.
I suddenly recognized that all those trigger points were my inspiration points.
I love that.
So, yeah.
It's so crazy that your environment. I actually had a guest on, and it's from the UK, Rob Moore. Have you heard of him?
No.
And a successful entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur from the UK. And we had a long conversation. And one of the aspects we were talking about is are you born an entrepreneur? That $1 million question. Are you born an entrepreneur, or should you create an entrepreneur? I'm the strong believer that you can teach somebody the tools, you can give them all the education you need, but you can't teach the hustle, that drive, that inner push, right? And he brought it up that entrepreneurs are taught, and a lot of times those taughts are from your childhood triggers. So he said to me, he goes, your environment, and he brought something up to me. He goes, your parents were low income, hardworking factory workers. He goes, that environment subconsciously triggered you not to want to be like that and push you into. So he brought it to a different angle, which is something you said. Your childhood could have brought up these triggers that essentially created a path to who you are right now, which I love that. And you brought that up right now too.
But if you imagine, I've seen my father and grandfather die in front of me, and I'm being abused by these losers. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to quit, because there's more to life than this, and I'm going to show you. And all my life, there's two things. My mom always said, you're not good enough, right? There's somebody better than you. They're more attractive. Got more money. They're this and that. And it was out of my control. Okay. So deep down inside, I was like, I'm going to show you. It's just a matter of time. I'll show you. But it wasn't very pleasant. It was like, I'll show you, MF. Yes.
Yeah.
And then it came, I show you, I love you, right?
Yeah.
Because it was that anger inside of proving that I was good enough that drove me. Now, here's the thing. I think everything's to do with your internal dialogue. It's to the way we talk to ourselves, okay? We either talk defeatist or we talk opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think the most powerful English word is why. Yes? Why has he got what I haven't got? Why is this like this? Why do we have to accept the status quo? Why do we have to do this? And if you ask the right questions, the right answers will come. Okay, so even now, when my staff come to me and I say, why do you choose that option? Tell me more. Why that, decision? So I think instead of just accepting, I used to go on a plane and say, why am I not turning left? Why am I going to coach? How can I do this? Why are they rich and I'm not? Why? Instead of saying, I accept being poor. Yes. I just didn't accept it. I just why not? Why not me?
Yeah.
Why not?
And I think that's an incredible skill too, is teaching our children how to ask questions. I think that's a skill a lot of people don't realize. There's too few skills that I think as a parent, you look at your children now that as an entrepreneur, I wish people taught me when I was a kid is sales, public speaking, communication, or networking, and asking proper questions. Those 4 skills, if they were taught to every children, we're going to have the next level of leaders. Those simple 4 skills, they're not taught in our educational system. I'm looking at my daughter. She's in high school, brilliant, finished grade 9 high school. She's an honor roll, incredible dance star, athlete. And she brings home her homework, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, you're not going to utilize 90% of this in the real world. And I'm like, this is a complete waste. So yes. I love that you're saying that. So when was your first, mine was 17, my first business started. When was your first dive as being an entrepreneur? Okay.
Being dyslexic, the moment school finished, I left. I didn't go to college. I didn't go to university, nothing. And I thought, you know what? I want to have the Ferraris. I want this. I want that. The only trait I know, the only business I know that can earn you that kind of money is sales. Yeah. Because if you can sell, you can earn money. And people used to say to me at the time that you make a great salesman because I was a good talker. Now I see that as an insult because great salespeople are great listeners.
Yeah.
So I think going back again to what you were mentioning about school is that one thing we have to add is emotional intelligence. Yeah. It's so powerful. And emotional intelligence comes from asking questions, because people think emotional intelligence is about miles under your tire, how years of living and existing and experiencing. But you know what? If your aerial's open to find out more about people by asking really good questions, one, you can build strong relationships because you care about others. Yeah. And then once you walk in their feet by asking great questions, you get that emotional intelligence. Yeah. And I think most people come out of university with zero emotional intelligence or common sense.
I agree with that.
Because common sense is not common these days.
No, not at all.
So I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you about the asking questions part. And it builds bonds, because the first rule of sales is people have got to like and trust you. Yeah. And how do you build like and trust? By asking great questions.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. And I think we also live in a society of entitlement where parents don't teach their children. I have a whole bunch of employees, and you see that entitlement where people come to a job and it's like, oh, thank you for the opportunity. It's like, oh, be happy that I'm here. It's a different mindset. And I think a lot of this has to do with parenting, growing up, how you're teaching your children, because a lot of parents don't put their children in a situation to learn basic skills. And if you go to my posts, my kids, 13, 15, they cook, they clean, they do laundry. I make them in the summer come work for me. Like I teach them basic life skills that they're able to do stuff on their own from a very young age. And I think a lot of parents, baby, put their boy or daughter through university or college because they want them to get this diploma, and then they get in the real world and they're just lost. And they're so used to mommy and daddy backing them up. So from the sales, where did that journey continue?
So I noticed that I wasn't particularly intelligent, not particularly good looking, not much going for me. But the only thing I had going for me is my work ethics. So I realized that if I work hard enough, and I worked hard through the times where all my competitors are in the pub or relaxing, I got more of a chance of succeeding. Yeah. So on a Friday evening, I live in Manchester, I'm door knocking at 6 p.m. in London. And my bosses at the time couldn't believe it because all my colleagues were in the pub in Manchester. Yeah. I was married with kids and I was getting home at 3 a.m. But I had all my sales because all the shopkeepers were locking up. And I could catch them when I was door knocking. I noticed when it rained, I was most successful because people saw commitment in my eyes. So I turned up, I had hair at the time and the hair was down and the glasses were water and my suit was, shoulder pads were soaking down. That's the time I got invited in for a coffee. Because I thought, wow, this guy is certain about it. This guy wants it, and so I thought the right word.
Do you mind me asking what you were selling?
Yeah, everything. What didn't I? The question is, what didn't you sell? From photocopiers to Kirby vacuum cleaners, I sold everything. Mobile phones when they were like suitcases.
Pure hustle, huh?
Absolutely. I remember going, I was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners to a rich neighborhood. Yeah. And then the month I started, they said, oh, no, we're going to change. We're going to do finance in this other neighborhood. And I'd never been to that neighborhood before. And I was chased by drug dealers. I had knives threatened by knife. down the road by prostitutes. I had it all. But I'd sell Kirby vacuum cleaners on finance. Can you believe it? So it didn't take me long before I left that job. But what was interesting about that job was that in some households, you get a sign saying, no salesman. Yeah. Okay. And I used to be so respectful. I used to avoid it. And my manager sat down and said, you know why they have those door signs? I said, no, because they say yes to everyone. Interesting. So they have those signs to avoid you knocking on the door because they'll buy. So I was most successful selling to those who said no salesman because they were weak. They used that sign to put the hustlers off. They put them up because they lacked certainty. And I realized if you're certain and work with people who are not as certain as you are, you will win.
Love it. I love it.
Right?
Yeah, I know. So where did your journey continue? You lived in the US. I mean, you lived in Canada. You were saying
I lived in Australia for 6 months. Age 22, 23, my uncle had a Persian carpet store. And my mom wanted me to have a career. And she sent me to Australia. I had some savings. Yeah. Went to Australia. And Australia is a strange place. Beautiful place. Big country. Yeah. But then they were like, they were really colonial mentality, even Sydney. And he had a shop in a place called Wollongong, which is about an hour and a half drive from Sydney. Yeah. And these guys, he had a Persian carpet store. And I'm 22, 23 working with him. I brought some money, gave him the cash. And then imagine this, we're selling, they got this thing called lay-by. Lay-by means, and there were lots of Polish workers there at the time. We're going back 30 odd years ago. Yeah. And I walk in and I sell a carpet and the woman says, I can't afford to pay it. But what I will do, I'll give you $100 and then $100 a month for the next 24 months. Keep it in lay-by. So we'll take this carpet off stock and put it in the back for 24 months.
They had that here. I haven't heard it for a while, but they used to have it here at the department stores. They would call it layaway.
Oh, yeah. It's called lay-by in Australia. And I was
they used to have that here at actually big department stores. When I was a kid, I remember you would go to the store and you would pick something that you wanted to get the sale price, whatever, and they would save it for you and you'd pay it off for 6 months. And then when you paid off, you get it. They would have that here. I mean, they haven't seen that in so long, but as a kid, I remember that in the big department stores too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, we went to a big department store. Yeah. We were, a couple of family-owned Persian carpets. So I was selling, and after 3 months, we ran out of stock. And all our stock was in the back because we had no cash flow. So I just said, Uncle, this is not going to work. So I spent 2 months on Bondi Beach catching a tan, flew back. And I thought that was a waste of time. And then I started a computer business because I felt PCs were the way to go. And at the time, being a salesman, I did very well. This is before Dell times. And we did really good. Dell came into the UK and I thought, this guy's got no chance.
Go figure that out.
What's this? He's selling online? What the hell is that? Yeah. And then obviously Dell became who they are. But what was interesting, I'll give you my experience with the computer company. We used to have a high returns rate. Yeah. Okay. I didn't like it because we sold 100 computers, 30 of them came back within 6 months with faults. And in the shower, I decided I was going to incentivize my engineers so we have less of a return rate. So I called them all in and I said, right, guys, I'm going to give you, I can't remember the time, $15, $10 for every computer that doesn't break down in 6 months. 6 months went by, my return rates were higher than ever. Why do you think that is? They embraced it. They loved it. They said, freaking amazing. But my return rate was higher than ever.
Were they trying to push out more computers?
Nope.
No. What was the reason?
Because you know what? When an engineer starts, they're not money driven. So if one computer works, they gain a bonus for nothing. Yeah. So they got more lazy because I didn't penalize them for computers that broke down.
Interesting.
I just gave them the carrot, but I didn't give them the stick.
Yeah.
So what I should have said was, I'll give you $15 for every computer that doesn't break down, but I penalize you 30 for everyone that does.
Yeah. Interesting.
That was one heck of a, so I'm going to try to share my stories with the lessons I learned, right?
I love it.
Yeah. And that's why I think people like my education, because everything's hooked to my own personal experience. Yeah. And people remember stories.
Yeah. And there's a definitely human connection to that also. I love that. So what was your next step? This has been a lot of layers. You went from Australia. Where'd you go from there? You went back home.
Yeah, I went, actually, you know what? I went to Canada when I was wealthy. And I'll tell you how I got there. I met my first wife, and she had a beauty salon business. And she had a small beauty salon above a post office. And I thought she was really professional. She was self-starter, successful.
And where was this?
Manchester.
Manchester. Okay.
Manchester.
Okay. Yeah.
Everything's Manchester. Okay. I'll let you know. And then I went to one of her exhibitions, the beauty exhibition, and coming from the computer world, I said to the woman at the stand, I said, "What's your unique selling proposition?" She looked at me like I was talking Mandarin. And she goes, "Well, the box is nice and it smells good." I was like, "Is that it?" She goes, "Yeah." And I thought, hang on, there's an opportunity in this industry. Yeah. So we went to the States and we imported some peels, TCA peels and alpha hydroxy acid peels and stuff. And it did really well. At the same time, I saw an opportunity to have health clubs outside town, because at the time, everything in England is small, and it's like the beauty salon was above a post office, and we had limited growth and stuff. So I said to my first wife, I said, "Why don't we open up a health club outside town?" And she said, "No, it's not going to work." So I invested, I opened the club. And in the first year, we had 30,000 people go through our turnstiles. Well, I lost a fortune. But it gave her the opportunity to see that she could run a successful business, because she was a farmer and I'm a hunter. Yeah. So she decided to shut her beauty business and join the health club business. And our business took off. It took off. We multiplied. We ran it for 17 years. We made fortune, and things were going pretty good financially. Yeah. We had 2 beautiful children. So everything was going really good. And then we decided, we got into personal development. We realized that we both passionate people, but our passion ran out, because we became more friends than passionate lovers. Yeah. And, we were scheduling making love sessions 3 weeks and 9 o'clock on a Wednesday. It was just ridiculous, right? Yeah. And the passion went out. So we decided to go our own separate ways. And she's still a very good friend of mine, and we speak on a regular basis. Good, so we drove to the divorce court together. The judgment, where's the other party? So we're it. Yeah. He goes, "What, you came in the same car?" I said, "Yeah, we just grown apart." And then she met someone in Dubai. And I decided to look after my kids. I said to her, "Listen, you worked so hard." She had it tough, because when she was just giving birth to her second child, a competitor opened around the corner, funded by her best friend, and she had to go back to work. I said, "You know what? You worked your socks off. Just go and enjoy yourself in Dubai. I'll look after the kids." And at the same time, I was on a TV program called That's Rich, which is a fly on the wall documentary. I was successful, wealthy guy and all that business. And so the cameras were following me to Spain in my properties, follow me to a showroom where I buy a Ferrari cash and all this business, right? Yeah. And I thought, you know what, it's a great way to meet someone, okay, market myself. Yeah. And then I met my second wife. It was just coincidence. She was my next door neighbor. And we had a beautiful son together. But then being on that program made me a target. Okay, so one day, my second wife and my child were in Spain, and I was with my older children. There was a knock on the door, and I shouted to them. Somebody opened the door. It was like 9 o'clock in the evening, and they were on their music or iPad or Xbox and all this. So I walked down the stairs, put in my pants on, opened the door. 4 men break into the house at knife point. And one guy's got this massive knife to my neck, and he's saying, let me cut him. It was like a psycho guy. Let me cut his throat. And I don't know if they were acting or whatever. And this big guy comes and says, "We want £250,000, about $300,000 from you. We know where you work. We know everything about you. And otherwise we'll kill you and your kids." And all I remember, Jeff, was I was pinned against the wall, knife to my neck, and I could hear my daughter on the other side of the door. And all I could think was, don't open the fucking door. Don't open the door, because this will scar you, Yeah. I wasn't thinking about I'm going to die or anything like this. It was just like, I just don't open the door. And I could hear her singing. And so being a salesman, I told them, I said, you will kill me, my kids, but let me get you the money tomorrow. I don't carry that kind of cash. So they left, phoned up an employee. He said, call the police. Within 20 minutes, they were caught. They had my address in the car, fingerprint on my doorbell, dumbasses, right?
Yeah.
But that night, I thought, my God, maybe they have friends. Maybe they have, this is not safe. So I packed up my children's bags and I sent them to Dubai. And I never went back to that house. My wife and my new wife and my baby boy were in Spain. I drove from north of England to southern Spain in 48 hours. I was like this. I got there. I took a few weeks off sabbatical. What the hell's going on? Got back to Manchester, had a heart attack. And within, actually 2009. And within...
How old were you at that point?
43.
I'm 44, so there,
Yeah, 43. Wow. And 3 kids, business, I was lying in a hospital bed. I had a franchise business in Canada, funny enough. I was flying to Toronto. Yeah. And I phoned up my ex-wife. I said, how are the kids? I said, well, I've got this. I was in the gym. I'm 104 kilos. I was 82 kilos at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm 20 kilos lighter than I am today. I was a semi-professional squash player. And I said to my ex-wife, I said, listen, I've got this cramp in my mouth and I don't think I can fly for 8 hours to Toronto. Because whatever you do, go to the hospital. I went to the hospital, put 1 pound in a meter. 1 week later, I had tickets on the car. The car was clamped. Yes. I walked in and they said, you've had a major heart attack. And I was lying on the bed and they gave me morphine, which is a great thing. And I was floating on the bed, enjoying myself. And I looked at the ceiling and I couldn't stop crying, Jeff. And it wasn't because I was scared of death. Really, it wasn't. I was thinking, I just don't want to die alone. Right. And I just made a decision. If I was going to live through this hell, what would I want to do? And I decided I want to be with my kids. And England, it wasn't a place I was happy. Yeah. And, I don't like the rain. I like the sun. And I visited Dubai before. And my sister lived here. And by that time, my kids had gone to my first wife. So I approached my second wife. I said, look, I've decided. September 2009, we're going to go to, I don't know why, we're going to go to Dubai. So sold my businesses. I was very honest with the buyers, told them the truth. They paid me 10% deposit. They didn't pay the 90%. They said, sue us. Because I was so frank and honest, they just fucked me over. Whatever I had left, the bank came after me. I was leveraged. The taxman came after me. And I had 4 houses in Spain. Went into the house clearance, left the keys on the kitchen table and left. Just left. They could be in Spain now because I just thought there was always a hook to take me back to Europe, right? I just thought I had to burn all my bridges and burn all my boats. Turned up in Dubai 2009 with $750 in my pocket. That's it. 3 kids.
But it's the power of being an entrepreneur where I always say this to people. If you're a true entrepreneur, money means nothing. You can rebuild money. It's family, your health, your well-being are what counts. Nothing else matters. I mean, that's a crazy story.
Often people say, Jeff, like your well-being, and most people put themselves last. Okay, not at any time I thought of my well-being until I hit rock bottom, and I thought, hang on a second, how many people rely on me? Yes. This self-pity, all this, I can't entertain it because for 6 months, my kids didn't go to school. Yeah. Right? Imagine I come home, they're looking at me like, Dad, what are you going to do? Yeah. Because I couldn't afford school.
Yeah. I mean, I always say everything that, I mean, there's levels of everything that we do. And one thing is, I always put in my non-negotiables. So every single month in my schedule, I call it the 3 to 7. So 3 to 7 p.m. every single day, that's family time. Phones off, everything's locked down. And I've been doing that for 12 years. The odd time you miss because of stuff. Yesterday I was doing construction. But I would say 90% of the time from 3 to 7, I'm having dinner with my family. We're together, we're for bike rides, we're working out. And that's family time. That's non-negotiable. Every single month I put that in my schedule. Then everything too is my health, my it's like the Oprah, filling up your cup first. I put myself above everybody else, above my family, above my business, above everything, mentally, spiritually, physically. I take care of myself. I make sure I'm at my highest peak. And once you're at your highest peak, that's only when you'll be able to serve other people and be able to take care of other people and the people you love and take care of your businesses. So I always make sure I take time for myself. I even called it almost like a daily vacation, even 15, 20 minutes a day, just to read a book, go for a walk, do something for yourself. So you're mentally always at a level and physically to be able to handle and challenge everything. So I love that. So
critical.
You've been in Dubai ever since?
Yeah. Makes it 12 years, September. And now we have a company of over 100 people. One of my businesses turned over $700 million last month. We have a crypto exchange. What else? We have a recruitment company. 5 months ago, the real Bradley, I met him. We were just, my wife and I were having dinner, and he walked by, and we were on his course. And my wife, cheeky enough, she turned around and said, "You got to interview my husband." And he stopped him and said, "Well, why?" She said, "Well, he's got a really good story." He said, "Okay, 5:00 tomorrow." I was like, "Wow, okay." Yeah. And then I couldn't believe it. I thanked her loads, gave her loads of money, sent her retail therapy. And I took the taxi to Brad's studio. Yeah. He was kind enough to interview me for about 2 hours or an hour and a half. Yeah. And we had 2.5 million views. Yeah. And we had the highest views on most of his posts.
Yeah, I've had Brad on my show. I've talked to him quite a few times. Yes. I know Brad. So yeah, incredible, right? I mean, he's got a very powerful platform, and he's good at what he does. Smart guy.
He's very generous. He's very generous.
Yeah. It's not, there's a lot of people look at Brad and think he has this cocky attitude that he has. He's very self-centered. He's not. He's very generous. He is about helping people. And I honestly,
it's a brand. It's a brand. That's why it's a brand. He's one of the kindest people you could meet. And, so he was generous enough to offer me his time. Yeah. And since then, I haven't looked back. States in the US, that is. And I think at the time I had 40,000 followers on Instagram. I have over 200,000 now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy.
The power of the influence, huh? It's
really. Insane. And I've had invites to speak on stage. Your good self got in touch with me, you know. And it's been nonstop. And after this podcast, I have another one.
I love it.
In California. So just blessed. And how all this started about 6 years ago, somebody contacted me and said, in Dubai, and said, "We've heard your rags to riches again story, and would like you to come and talk on our event. Would you do that?" I said, "Well, I'm not a professional speaker." She said, "No, just come and speak for an hour." Yeah. And they gave me the dead man slot, which was like 5:00 on a second day of the event. Yeah. Everybody's like tired, they want to go home.
Yeah, of course.
So I went in, there was about 100 people or something in the room. When I left 3.5 hours later, there were 150 people in the room. Yeah. And people had been dancing, crying, just sharing my story. The other speakers were so pissed because I made them stay later, and I'm unprofessional. They said, a professional speaker speaks to that, stay an hour. You've been 3.5 hours. I had no clue, but the crowd loved it. They opened up a Facebook page, and very quickly I got 500,000 followers, and it just went viral, my story. And I noticed you have Muhammad Ali in the background. I don't know, do you hear my Muhammad Ali story?
No. Let's hear that. There's a couple. Let's hear that. And I want to say one quick thing from a story you said before. So how long were you in the fitness industry for? You said 17 years?
Yeah, 17 years. I still have clients.
So did you actually have physical gyms?
Yes. Health clubs.
Clubs. Yeah, I love that.
Badminton, squash, gyms, creche, beauty salons, hair salons, everything. Yes.
I love that. I mean, from 19 to 24, I ran a consulting company. So I would actually deal with big box gyms and instill PT programs and help them with their PAPs, pre-authorized payments. And I used to, at 19 years old, I was standing in front of like 1,000 people teaching sales for gyms, walkthroughs and all that. And then I ended up building 2 gyms and selling them both off, building branding and selling them off. So I've been in the gym industry as well. So I love that aspect. So there's 2 stories. Let's talk. Before you get to Ali story, tell me a story about your last name.
My name is Soudi. Okay. Yeah. And obviously my fathers in the family died. Yeah. My father and grandfather. I couldn't ask them, why is my name an Arabic name? Okay. It's spelled like, in Arabic, it's spelled like Saudi Arabia, but it's pronounced Soudi, which in turn means that the translation means is going up in life, like an aeroplane, going up, inclination. So I just thought, God, what a great name to have, because I can never go down, right? I've got to live up to my name. So I've got to keep always going up. But I don't know where it originated from, because I honestly thought it was like maybe my great-grandfather's father or whatever fought in some Arabic war, and they were given that name. And anyway, I found my uncle in Austria, my dad's brother. And I said to the kids, I'm going to go and find where he is. I'm going to find out where our name is from. So I found him in Vienna and went and met him. And I said, Uncle, just long time no see. Please tell me this story, this romantic story behind our name, because my kids want to know why they have this such great name. And he said, well, your granddad's name was Butcher because his dad had loads of butcher shops and he didn't like it. So he just changed it. I said, that's it? He goes, yeah, it got changed about 60 years ago. And I said, what about a romantic story of this? No, none of that. You were supposed to be called Butchers. I said, Dariush the Butcher. He goes, yeah. So I phoned on my kids. I said, listen, it's not a romantic story, but just thank God you're not called Butchers. Because in those days, they used to name people after their, what they did.
Yeah, interesting.
So there was no romantic story. I was called the Butcher, Dariush the Butcher. But then my granddad changed it because he was a mayor of a number of cities those days. And he said, it's not a good name to have. And he just changed it.
I love that.
So
I think names are so powerful. My daughter is named Sierra, which means mountaintop. And my son, one day we'll talk about his whole story, but he was, I was put in a room. They said he had about 5-10 minutes left of life. And I didn't have a name for him. We didn't have a name because he was emergency C-section at 31 weeks. And I had my wife emergency having surgery in one room. I was in a room with my son. They were giving him oxygen, and they said he probably won't make it more than 10 minutes. Do you have a name for him? I'm not a very religious person. And the first name that came to my head was Tiago, it means God's warrior. And I just wrote that on the birth certificate. That's how his story started. So my son's name, Tiago means God's warrior. My daughter, Sierra, which means mountaintop. I think names are very powerful. And I think a lot of people, it's beautiful when you put some thought into it, right? Give me your Ali story.
Jeff, I remember when my first son was born, I was sitting with the father of another child being born. My wife and his wife were next door giving birth. Yeah. And they called me in. My son was born. I came out and I was like celebrating, and I hugged him and he was crying. His child died, stillborn, and I just thought, God, in one hospital, 2 different rooms, one person loses the child, another one gains life. And that's how fragile everything is.
When my son was born, we're very blessed. We have one of the greatest pediatric hospitals in the world, Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, Canada. Yes. And when he was born, sick kids had no beds. They were full. And they said they had to drive him to a hospital in Hamilton, which is about an hour and a half drive. They said he most likely won't make the drive. And as they were driving, to our blessing, to another family's pain and suffering, a baby passed away and a bed opened up, and they were able to do a UE and go to Sick Kids Hospital. So and he was put on the 4th floor, which is it's the highest level of the IU there. And there was 6 beds in this room. And it was a rotating door where every couple of days a new baby would die. And he was there for almost 4 months of his life, and he made it through. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. I think this will touch you.
Please.
Me and my wife were there from 7 a.m. till 7 at night every single day. We would just sit there by his bed, sit there. And I'm a very hands-on person. I have to take control of stuff. I know it's my entrepreneurial side. So he had 7 organs that were severely damaged when he was born. And he had Sick Kids Hospital has a department for each organ. So they had nephrology, first kidneys. They had all these departments, right? So every single morning, all the departments would come together and they would have a round table and figure out what the plan was for the day. And after 2 days of being there, I had to be involved. So I would sit there at 7 a.m. with them and plan the day out with them. And I would study everything they would do. I would go home. I would study everything they did at night. And then I would come back the next day. And I was so heavily involved. And one thing me and my wife would notice is out of these 6 other 5 babies, we would barely ever see another parent. And I would look at my wife and I'm like, why do they never come here? Do they come here after we leave? Do they come here more on weekends? But we were there on weekends too. We were there 7 days a week. And one day I pulled this nurse that was, bless her soul, like she was a big part of my son coming out of that hospital, Marianne. And I said, Marianne, I go, why aren't other parents here? And she says, a lot of parents don't want to build that personal or that emotional connection to their child because they know they're going to lose them. And she looked at me, she goes, your son's coming out of here. Every time I see the story, I want to cry. She goes, your son's coming out of here because you're here. He knows you're here.
Love.
And it's incredible that I would see that these parents would not, they would come for an hour, have a meeting with the doctor and go home and just leave their baby there all day. And I apologize for jumping that story, but it's just a
beautiful story. I remember coming to, thank you for that story.
Yeah.
Honestly, all the hair in my arse. I was coming to Dubai, leaving England, and one of my very successful friends phoned up and said, look, Dariush, I just want to give you one parting advice. And said, what's that? He goes, you just spoil your kids with too much love. Every word is, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I said to him, I love you, but he could have advised me on anything, but this is the worst advice you could ever give me. Yeah. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to him, because thank you, God, my children are the happiest kids you could meet, because they're cups full of love. Yeah. They're not love buying somebody else's attention, not love buying opportunities. They're cups full. Yeah. They always want to come home because they always loved, and who wants to be on this planet if they're not loved, right?
What does fatherhood mean to you?
My father, just basically, to have children is the easiest thing in the world, right? Yeah. So it's just the most natural, easiest thing to the world. So fatherhood is not about giving birth, right? Or with your partner. Fatherhood is about, for me, it's responsibility. To me, yeah. It's about legacy, and making sure that they are going to be better than me. They're going to be more prepared than me. Not motherly cuddle them, not protect them too much, make them weak. Yeah. But make sure this legacy, good values continues. Yeah. Okay. Love is everything. Yeah. Love is everything. If I had to do it all over again, I'd say, screw money. I'll sit on a hilltop and I'll hug people all day. Yeah, but unfortunately, bills don't get paid. You can't fly first class, and so.
No, but I mean, I always say that is money. You always say that money can't buy happiness, but I mean, no one that's poor is ever happy, and you have to understand that if you are put in a situation where financially you could help other people and give back, it's beautiful being able to do that, right? I mean, during the pandemic, we had some of the most successful times business wise, and a lot of people, and I would talk about this, and we're still going through a pandemic, but I mean 2019, 20, and I was especially 2020, and I would tell people how well we're doing. I started the podcast, I got 2 number 1 selling books, I did, and I would tell people this, and some people would frown on me, and I'm like, but my success is giving other opportunities for people to work. I'm helping and giving back. So as long as you're willing to use your success for the good, I mean, it's incredible. So money, I never say money is a negative thing. I think money is a positive thing if you're used right.
If you're a giving person and you're poor, you give your time, you give your love, give your affection, give your advice. If money gives you choices, right? And if you're a good person, you make good choices. If you're a bad 100%. Person, you make bad choices. That's it. Money's energy. Yeah. Period. If I could change anything, that's one thing I would never change. That love makes everything go around. Why do people want to be billionaires? They want to be respected and loved. Yeah. Why do they be politicians? They want to be loved by their bet on the side. They want to be loved by their family. They want to be loved by people. No, it's true, isn't it? Yeah. Everything comes to love. You know, it sounds wimpy and stuff like this. Money, they just want to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. Yeah. Period. They just put different words around it.
Yeah, I love that. Ali, give me your Ali story.
When I came here, I didn't want to work with people because I associated with pain. By the way, I love Tim Hortons.
Talk about a franchise that makes money, huh?
10 kilos of my weight is due to Tim Hortons. Vanilla
latte, yeah.
Yeah, vanilla latte is there. Oh my God. And I didn't want to work with adults because I felt like they screw you, they cheat you. I just want to work with kids. So I wrote down like my goals in life. And one of them was to help children, help orphanages. And now we actually run an orphanage in Thailand. My wife runs it with 200 children there.
I love that.
And thank you. And where am I going? Yeah, so I wrote down one I want to come to Dubai. The other one was to help kids. Yeah. The other one was to meet Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali, the reason is that he was my hero. And the only thing I remember of my father and my grandfather was they used to wake me up at like silly o'clock on the lap to watch Ali fights, Ali Frazier, Ali Foreman, and all these people. And that's all I remember of my father. So I just followed Muhammad Ali. I remember sending a letter, and he sent me a signed postcard back from the US to Iran. I was just like, he was a Muslim, black man in a white society, anti-war. Yeah. He was just everything that a superhuman being can be. I'm sure he had his faults. He was a womanizer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I'm sure we all have faults. But to me, he was my hero. So I wrote down, I want to meet Muhammad Ali. So I come over and I did some research, and I noticed that he has a center called the Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah. And all they do is his 8 principles to find the greatness within for children. And I thought, my God, this is great. Dubai is the most amazing city, and there must be some empty buildings here. I'm going to meet the owner of the country, the ruler of the country. I'm going to pitch him the Ali Center, get the Ali Center to Dubai. Muhammad Ali comes to launch it. I get to meet. Everybody's happy. We're going to help the children in Dubai, and wonderful. So I met at the same time, I was a single self-employed sales and marketing consultant to Dubai. Yeah. And I was honestly, Jeff, I was leading to another heart attack. I was doing like 14 clients a week. Yeah. And I had to deliver 2 clients a day. It was crazy, working 7 days a week. Yeah. And for 3 years, I kept asking myself, how can I have a business that doesn't rely on me? Because I'll never get rich selling my time. Okay. Yeah. So I got these questions asking. Now, I prepared the most amazing presentation about bringing the Ali Center to Dubai. I didn't know anyone in the Muhammad Ali Center. It was just speculative. Yeah. And I met loads of different people, and they all laughed. They all said, it's not going to work. And finally, after 3 years, I met one of the sons of the ruler. Yeah. And I did him the most amazing presentation. Honestly, looking back now, the presentation blew my mind, right? Yeah. And then I said, and what do you think? And he went, what a crap idea. Nobody's interested in an old boxer. If it was rock climbing, skydiving, yes, but nobody's interested. And I was devastated. I got home and I phoned one of my friends telling him, it was just a bad idea. I'm just going to put this goal in to bed. I'm just going to forget about it. Because you know what? Have you heard of Facebook? I said, yeah, I have a Facebook page. Because why don't you open up a Facebook page? So I said, how do you do that? He came around, we opened up a Facebook page called the Muhammad Ali Center, UAE. Yeah. And I wrote a heartfelt letter, exactly what I described to you. My father, grandfather, dreams, Muhammad Ali's this. And I sent it out to my friends. I said, if 50 of you follow this link, I will continue chasing my dream. And I went to bed, woke up, I had 1,100 followers. My letter had gone viral. Within 2 weeks, I had over 40,000 followers. The government of Egypt, government of India contacted me saying, we want to open Ali centers. Driving along, telephone rings, and it's an American voice. Can you be available 11 o'clock tonight or 9 o'clock this evening? I said, sure. We sat down. I know it was an important call. We sat down, dining room table, phone rings, pick it up. It's Lonnie Ali, Muhammad Ali's wife. Yeah. And Muhammad's heard about your campaign and he wants to meet you.
Crazy.
In 2 weeks. And obviously I was struggling financially because we were just barely paying school fees and rent. I borrowed money, took several flights, got to Louisville, Kentucky. By that time, I had over 65,000 followers on this page. Yeah. And I was just about to meet my hero. And I thought, hang on a second, since that post, I haven't posted anything to my followers. It's because of them I'm here, not because of me. Yeah. So I took a picture of the menu and the sandwich board pointing to the Ali Center, saying, thank you, because of you, I'm here. I'm just about to meet Muhammad Ali. And about 7,000 or 8,000 people replied instantly. And I thought, oh my God, this social media shit really works.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
So I pulled out a napkin and I thought, I have about 25 clients who I could probably sign up to manage their social media page. And I'll charge them something stupid like $500 a month. Yeah. Wrote the business plan, came up, and I signed 25 clients in the first month. By the end of the year, I had over 200 or 300 clients. Yes. My wife, my son, myself, we were posting 24/7, and and it suddenly became a social media company, just because of the Muhammad Ali experience. And the reason that I kept asking, how can I build a business that doesn't rely on me selling my time? And then people came and said, we love what you're doing. Can you do a website? I took their money, Googled how, find a couple of staff who were terrible. We built some websites, eventually got it right. And then she said, we love your website, but nobody can find it. I went, okay, Googled it and said, okay, you need SEO. So developed an SEO company. And then people say it's taking too long. I said, yeah, it is. We need Google advertising. Now we're top 3% premier Google partners in Middle East and North Africa. And then I realized that when I teach about recruitment, and you only need to recruit motivated people because it's easy to teach them. Yeah. So I introduced this recruitment process. Now we have a recruitment company. We have a training company because you can get the most amazing motivated staff. But if you don't train them, they're going to be useless. So we started a training business. So it just developed. Then I realized 60% of our clients were in a hospitality business, and they lack consistency. We opened up a hospitality company, which was doing extremely well, building restaurants, the menu engineering, until COVID hit. And then that took a big hit. But suddenly we had 9 businesses, hundreds of people working for us, all because of the Muhammad Ali experience.
So first off, you didn't finish that story. You met Ali, I'm assuming.
No, he never turned up.
After all that.
He never turned up. And they sent me some guy. He said, oh, don't worry about it. Here's a free ticket to the Ali Center. And here's some goodies to take home. And I later on found out they literally hauled him off to some event in New York for $50,000. It broke my heart. And half the stuff in the Ali Center was broke. And I wish I'd never seen that part. Yeah. Because it was just like another boxer that was used. Then I realized he sold 80% of his name to a company, a branding company who own.
Oh, they're making a fortune off his name.
Making a fortune. Yeah, Elvis, Michael Jackson, the whole lot.
Yeah.
And then, it was heartbreaking. But then they needed the money. They took, I think, $60 or whatever $1 million. But because of that experience,
it'll open up other doors.
It opened up everything.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love your story. I mean, there's so many stories that you're saying, so many things that we have in common that it's great. Like my dad was a huge boxing fan, and I remember as a kid just sitting down next to him on the couch, just watching boxing and boxing.
You probably watched Hearns, Hagler.
Yeah, of course.
Sugar Ray Leonard. These are the greatest boxers of all time.
Of course. At my home, in my basement, we have I got Ali, PSA Ali Frazier signed 16x20. I got one of Ray and Sugar Ray and oh my God, what's his name? Hispanic guy. They had those epic fights. But long story is that I know
what you mean.
They made a movie on him recently.
Duran
and Ali. Yeah. Duran and Sugar Ray. Yeah.
I'm gonna show you something and not get cut off. Okay. Yeah. How long do we have?
About 5-10 minutes left. I have one good question for you.
Okay. I'm going to show you something. Hopefully, it'll blow you away.
Yeah.
You're going to gain a free tour of my office. Okay. Watch this.
I love it.
All signed by Ali.
I love it.
And I have the book.
Yeah, I love it.
The greatest of all time.
I love the showcase there.
Thank you. And also, I want to talk to you about this briefly, Gladiators.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you know, I call all my followers gladiators because I think as generations go, like you mentioned it, that we've gone soft.
Yeah.
We have this attitude of the world owes us.
Yeah.
And I think we live in a very scary times because as human beings go, 2,000 years ago, if you went to the marketplace as a gladiator to fight your way to freedom because you were slaves, and if you didn't practice or didn't work out enough, you get slaughtered in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Today, too many people jump in, go to the marketplace, get burned, and they don't give a shit. And they're dying slowly. So what I say is be a fucking gladiator. Sorry for swearing. I hope you don't want me
I love
swearing.
it. No, we're all good.
So be a fucking gladiator. Dust yourself down. Practice before you go to the marketplace because you're going to get slaughtered. The difference is those days you just get dead. You just die.
Yeah.
Now you just drip dying. You're dying a day at a time, slowly. And that's the worst pain.
Yeah.
So practice, perfect your art, learn the strategies, plan better, invest time in yourself, right? Be a freaking gladiator and fight your way to freedom.
I love it. I love it. I have one last question for you.
Certainly.
If something were to happen to you today, how do you want to be remembered, described by your loved ones?
The man who all I want them to remember is that thousands of people turned up at my funeral. I went to Iran 15 years back to say goodbye to my grandma. And then it'd been 40 odd years since my grandfather passed. And about 50 people turned up on the fact that they heard I was turning up. Okay. And I thought, Jesus, 40 years later, these people are turning up to see me because I'm somebody's grandchild. And I thought, you know what? I want that. Legacy.
And you said that a few times with your children too. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is important. It's the impact you leave, right? Is how people remember you, how people remember you.
Nobody gives a shit about Disney. Nobody gives a shit about Ford. Nobody gives a shit about these, Morgan Stanley. All these names are just badges.
Yeah.
Yes, but people do remember Martin Luther King. They remember Gandhi, Mother Teresa, all these people who helped millions. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Anything you want to leave our audience with?
I'd like to do this again, Jeff.
I think we will. And I mean, next time you're in Toronto, I'd love to sit down, have a nice dinner with you, and take you out and show you.
It'll be my honor. And we may even do some
family.
I'd like to do some business with you because if you're in the sales business, I've got some sales stuff we can focus on next time. It'll blow you away.
Interesting.
Blow you away.
I'm always looking at different opportunities.
Let's do that. Let's do events. I'd love to do some events over there.
Well, Toronto's a great
and
spot.
Also invite you here and invite you to Dubai.
Interesting.
So let's do something. Let's take it from here. Really 100%. Enjoyed it. If awesome. Anybody's got any questions, they can connect with me. I don't know if you have a text with my name on it on my social media.
So at the end of the we do a whole parade of we do 19 posts. We have 2 YouTube videos from this. It's a whole parade we do. Our team does. So in all the show notes, we're going to put all the links to your websites, to your social media, how to get a hold of you and all that stuff. So you'll be taking care on that end as well. And I appreciate your time. This has been, I mean, there's so many layers of you, man. We could probably talk for 2-3 hours here without even trying.
We can, and I really enjoyed the vibes. Thank you. I'm sorry I talk too much, but
this is awesome. I love it. Thank you, brother.
God bless you and your family.
Same with you, brother. Thank you as well.
Thank you for your generous time. Thank you.
That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Dariush, for taking time out of his incredibly busy schedule to be a guest on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. If you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I have, like all weeks, tell your friends, tell your family. We're trying to build something special here. Leave a review. 5 stars would be incredibly appreciated. We love spending time reading the reviews. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward.